The morning sun rose gently over the Thanvan Mountains, casting golden light across the mist. White clouds drifted like endless silk ribbons wrapping the high peaks. At the foot of the mountain, Thanha village awakened slowly with rooster crows. The temple bell echoed faintly, blending with the rhythm of the morning. Children laughed as they chased each other across narrow dirt paths. Smoke curled from kitchen chimneys, carrying the scent of warm rice porridge. Beside the old well, a young boy sat silently, lost in thought. His name was Turndipe, a quiet youth of 16 summers. He wore a simple blue robe, patched at the sleeves. His face was handsome but thin, with calm dark eyes. Those eyes seemed to hold an ocean of hidden thoughts. Turndipe had lost his parents at a young age. He grew up under the care of a distant uncle. Life was never easy, yet he rarely complained aloud. Villagers thought of him as silent and withdrawn. But beneath that silence lay unyielding determination. Every morning, he carried heavy buckets from the well. His arms and back had grown strong from labor. Passing the open fields, he often saw children sparring. Wooden sticks clashed as they played heroes and swordsmen. "I am the great hero. Surrender now," one shouted. Laughter echoed as another child pretended to fall. Turndipe smiled faintly but said nothing. His eyes carefully observed their every move. He memorized footwork, strikes, and angles in silence. Quiet learning had long become his secret habit. He never boasted, only polished himself in secret. The sun climbed higher, burning down upon the earth. Sweat rolled down his forehead as he chopped wood. From afar, voices carried rumors to the courtyard. "A Taoist priest will come tonight," someone whispered. "He knows real magic." Another exclaimed with excitement. Children's eyes shone as they jumped with joy. Adults nodded curiously, eager to witness a wonder. Turndipe paused, listening without speaking a word. He doubted the truth, yet something stirred inside. Tales of immortals and swordsmen always fascinated him. He often dreamed of soaring across the skies. Night fell, and the village gathered in the courtyard. The moon glowed silver above the thatched roofs. Lanterns flickered, casting warm light upon eager faces. A Taoist priest in white robes slowly appeared. His beard flowed gently, and his eyes seemed calm. He raised his sleeve and waved with subtle grace. Suddenly, the oil lamp at the center blazed brightly. Villagers gasped, clapping in awe at the sight. Children cheered, believing it was immortal magic. Adults murmured in admiration, praising the priest's power. But Turndipe narrowed his eyes with suspicion. He noticed the priest scattering fine powder into the flame. The powder ignited instantly, creating the dazzling effect. "So it's just a trick," he thought to himself. Yet the spark lit something deeper inside his heart. For the first time, he yearned to see beyond. The crowd still buzzed with excitement and wonder. Then, a graceful figure stepped forward under the moonlight. She was a girl dressed in pure white silk. Her features were delicate, her smile like spring sunshine. Her eyes shone with innocence, bright as starlight. She seemed like a lotus blooming amid rough reeds. Her name was Lam Theon Nuet, daughter of a wealthy merchant. She was visiting her grandmother in Thanha village. The moonlight outlined her silhouette with gentle radiance. Her presence silenced the noisy crowd for a moment. Turndipe turned his gaze toward her unknowingly. His heart, usually calm, skipped a sudden beat. Her smile carved itself deep into his memory. For the first time, he felt a stirring emotion, but he quickly suppressed it, turning his eyes away. He told himself it was nothing but fleeting fate. Yet inside, he knew her image would never fade. The priest ended his performance, bowing to the villagers. The crowd cheered, praising him like a true immortal. Slowly, the courtyard emptied under the silver moonlight. Turndipe walked back to his modest home alone. His house was small, with a thatched roof and bamboo bed. He lay down, staring silently at the dark ceiling. Thoughts of the priest's trick swirled in his mind. Thoughts of Lam Theon Nuet lingered even stronger. He clenched his fists tightly under the blanket. "I cannot live like this forever," he whispered. "Beyond this village, there must be a greater world." The mountain wind whistled softly through the wooden door. Crickets sang outside, filling the night with sound. Moonlight spilled across the floor like silver threads. His shadow lay long and thin across the mat. In that moment, a fire was born within him. It was not only curiosity but burning determination. Determination to find the truth of immortals and swordsmen. Determination to seek freedom beyond mortal boundaries. And perhaps, determination to see her gentle smile again. The night passed slowly, filled with unspoken dreams. Each breath he took felt heavy with destiny. Each thought he carried pulled him toward a new path. The boy in the quiet village was no longer ordinary. The universe itself seemed to call to him. A journey of love, hatred, and discovery awaited. A path of swords, fire, and endless trials was opening. From this night, his fate would never be the same. Thus began the story of Turndipe, the legend to come. Dawn painted the Thanvan Mountains with a golden glow. Sunlight pierced through the leaves, warming the village paths. Thanhoff village awakened with the rhythm of another day. To the villagers, nothing seemed different from yesterday. But in Turndipe's heart, everything had quietly changed. Last night's flame still lingered in his restless thoughts. He had barely closed his eyes throughout the night. Images of the Taoist priest's trick haunted his mind. The radiant smile of Lamtheon Nujat returned again and again. His calm nature trembled before feelings he couldn't suppress. He sat beside the old well, staring into its waters. The reflection showed the same quiet boy as always. But beneath that reflection lay a spark of destiny. Perhaps fate is calling me beyond this simple life. The village moved on, busy with daily routines. Farmers carried water buckets balanced on bamboo poles. Women weaved cloth while children chased each other playfully. No one noticed the shift inside, one orphan boy. Only an old blacksmith, bent yet sharpened, did notice. His name was Ls Trung Neon, once a wanderer of the G. He had chosen to retire quietly in Thanha village. Watching Turndipe pass, he suddenly spoke aloud. "Boy, you went to watch that priest yesterday, didn't you?" Turndipe paused in surprise before nodding silently. The old man's lips curled into a dry smile. "The villagers were fooled, but your eyes told the truth. You saw the trick, didn't you?" he asked knowingly. Turndipe lowered his head with respect and answered. "Yes, I saw the flaws in his act." Ls Trung Neon's eyes gleamed with quiet approval. "Good. Never let surface illusions deceive your heart. But remember this, true immortals and warriors do exist." His words struck Turndipe like a lightning bolt. The thought of a greater world stirred inside him. Afternoon arrived, heavy with summer heat. Suddenly, loud cries echoed near the village gate. A merchant caravan was leaving Thanha that day. It was the caravan of Lamtheon Nuyat's family. Just beyond the fields, bandits ambushed them mercilessly. Horses neighed wildly. Weapons clashed. Screams filled the air. Villagers panicked, shutting their doors in fear. From afar, Turndipe stood frozen, watching everything unfold. His eyes widened as he spotted Lamtheon Nujat in danger. A bandit seized her arm and dragged her from the carriage. Her delicate figure struggled desperately against his grip. Fear flickered in her eyes, yet she remained defiant. Turndipe's heart pounded harder than ever before. A force deep inside urged him to act. "I cannot stand by and do nothing," he decided. He grabbed a heavy wooden stick lying by the road. Without hesitation, he charged into the group of bandits. They laughed at the sight of a mere village boy. But their laughter quickly turned into shocked screams. With one strike, he shattered a bandit's arm. The bone cracked loudly, echoing through the chaos. The man dropped his weapon and fell to the ground. Rage filled the other bandits as they rushed forward. Turndipe tightened his grip on the stick. He spun his body, striking with surprising precision. 2 more bandits were knocked down in a single sweep. Years of hard labor had built strength in his arms. Quietly observing children's sparring had trained his movements. He now used both without hesitation or fear. Sweat and blood mingled as he fought desperately. His chest burned with effort, yet his mind stayed calm. In the chaos, Lamtheon Nuyat stared at him in awe. The ordinary boy she barely knew now fought like a lion. His steady eyes blazed with unyielding determination. For a moment, she forgot her fear and only watched. But the bandits regrouped, attacking all at once. Steel blades flashed dangerously in the afternoon sun. Turndipe swung his stick, but it was too slow. Death loomed close as 3 blades descended toward him. Just then, a thunderous roar shattered the air. "Stop!" a powerful voice bellowed. A figure rushed out from the village like a storm. It was none other than Ls Trung Neon, the blacksmith. His massive hammer swept in a deadly arc. Bandits screamed as they were thrown aside like leaves. Terror seized their hearts, and they fled into the forest. Silence fell, broken only by ragged breathing. Turndipe staggered, exhausted but still standing tall. The old blacksmith placed a hand on his shoulder. "Good boy, you did not disappoint me." Pride and warmth glimmered in the elder's eyes. The merchants gathered, trembling but grateful to be alive. Lam Theon Nujat's father bowed deeply in thanks. Gratitude filled every word spoken to their saviors. Lam Theon Nuyat herself stepped closer to Turn Dipe. Her eyes shimmered like stars as she spoke softly. "Thank you for saving my life, young sir." Turn Dipe lowered his gaze, answering with modesty. "I only did what I had to do." But inside, his heart burned with new resolve. If he had true strength, he would need no help. If he mastered real power, he could protect everything. That night, sleep refused to come once again. He sat by the old well under the silent moon. His fists clenched tightly as he whispered in the dark. "I must become stronger. No matter the cost." Morning mist covers Thanha village, where Tran Deep sits silently after yesterday's bloody fight. His hands still ache from swinging the staff, faint scars reminding him of danger. Children imitate his moves, laughing, while villagers whisper stories about the brave young man. Yet Tran Deep feels no joy, only emptiness and shame at his weakness. Without Master Lai, he knows he would have died beneath the bandits' cruel blades. Noon sunlight burns bright, but Tran Deep's heart remains heavy, searching for strength's meaning. Lai Trong Nin walks through the village, tall and calm, eyes shining like tempered steel. "You fought bravely," he says softly, voice steady, assessing the boy before him. Tran Deep bows respectfully, gratitude pouring from his heart like a hidden stream. "Thank you, Master. Without you, my life would already belong to death." Lai Trong Nin smiles slightly, nodding at the boy's humility and self-awareness. "Knowing your weakness," he says, "is the first step toward becoming truly strong." His words echo deeply, like hammer strikes forging new metal in Tran Deep's soul. "Tonight," Master Lai whispers, "come to my forge. And bring your determination." Tran Deep feels a chill, knowing destiny is shifting beneath his very feet. Afternoon fades, but Tran Deep keeps replaying Lai Trong Nine's promise inside his mind. Villagers still cheer, but his eyes search the horizon for something more. The sun dips low, casting long shadows across Thanha's worn dirt streets. Tran Deep practices quietly, swinging an old stick until sweat soaks his clothes. Each strike resounds like a vow to never again feel helpless or cornered. Night falls, the moon rising bright and cold over sleeping roofs and trees. Tran Deep walks silently toward the forge, heart racing louder than his footsteps. Sparks fly inside, bright against darkness, as Lai Trong Nin shapes glowing iron. The forge smells of metal, ash, and hidden stories from faraway battlefields. On a stone table rests a wooden sword, plain yet perfectly balanced. "What is this?" Tran Deep asks softly, voice trembling with curiosity. "My first training weapon," Lai Trong Nin replies, eyes distant with memories. "Not sharp, but strong enough to teach patience, discipline, and the true path." He places the wooden sword into Tran Deep's uncertain hands, slowly. Weight presses down heavier than wood, carrying expectation and unspoken challenge. "If you truly wish to learn, use this and follow my teachings." Tran Deep stares at the wooden sword, feeling destiny pulsing inside its grain. Memories of defeat and shame push him toward a decision of courage. He kneels, lowering his head, forehead touching cold earth beneath. "Please teach me, Master," he says firmly, voice carrying both fear and hope. Lai Trong Nin laughs, a sound like steel ringing against anvil sparks. "Good, but the path holds sweat, blood, tears, and possible death," he warns. "Do you still dare?" His voice cuts like wind over icy mountains. Tran Deep raises his head, eyes steady as still water under moonlight. "I dare," he says, breath slow but unwavering, forging his resolve. Outside, the wind carries faint drumbeats from distant lands, echoing forgotten wars. Inside, firelight paints their faces gold, shadows dancing like ancient spirits. Lai Trong Nin shows basic stances, feet planted, arms steady, eyes forward. "Balance first," he instructs, "before power. Learn control and calm." Tran Deep mimics the movements awkwardly but determinedly, sweat shining under forge light. Each adjustment feels like a small battle against old habits and weakness. Master Lai taps his shoulder, correcting posture with gentle but firm precision. "Good," he murmurs. "Patience will build your foundation stronger than any mountain." Hours pass, stars shifting while they practice inside the glowing forge. Tran Deep's breath grows deep, body trembling yet standing taller than before. Wooden sword rises, falls, slicing air, carrying his vow to change. Sparks land on his arms, tiny burns reminding him of real pain. Lai Trong Nin nods approvingly, seeing a flicker of true potential. Tomorrow, he says, we begin the true training of inner energy. Tran Deep bows again, exhaustion mixing with exhilaration, at his first lesson. Night winds whistle through the forge, carrying ash into the sky. Outside, dogs bark faintly, sensing the shift of destiny nearby. Tran Deep holds the wooden sword tighter, palms blistered but proud. His heart pounds, echoing like a war drum, announcing his rebirth. I will never be weak again, he whispers under his breath. Lai Trong Nien extinguishes the forge fire, darkness swallowing the red glow. Only moonlight and embers remain, illuminating teacher and student. Go rest, Master Lai says, tomorrow will break your limits again. Tran Deep steps out, night air cold but refreshing against his skin. Villagers sleep unaware, while a legend begins inside their humble village. He walks home slowly, wooden sword across his back like a silent promise. Stars above seem brighter, hinting at paths yet unseen across heavens. Each step feels heavier, but his spirit rises higher with determination. Passing the old well, he drinks water, cooling his burning hands. Reflections ripple, showing a boy becoming a warrior under moonlight. Memories of the bandits' faces flash, fueling his will to grow. Next time, he vows silently, I will protect without relying on anyone. Crickets sing, a steady rhythm echoing his new heartbeat of training. Trees sway gently, whispering encouragement from unseen ancestors. The wooden sword feels warmer now, as if alive in his grip. He senses a faint pulse, perhaps imagination, perhaps destiny calling. His mind races through tomorrow's possibilities, excitement mixing with fear. Above the mountains, a hawk cries, wings cutting through starlit air. Tran Deep closes his eyes briefly, centering his breathing, grounding his resolve. The village seems smaller now, but his dreams stretch endlessly beyond. He pictures himself standing tall on distant cliffs holding a real sword. One day, he thinks, this wooden blade will become steel and legend. Clouds drift, hiding the moon, darkness deepening like the unknown ahead. Yet he walks calmly, trusting his choice, forging courage step by step. His house appears, humble and quiet, waiting like an old friend. He enters softly, not waking his family, placing sword near his bed. Hands still trembling, he lights a small candle, staring at the blade. Flickering flame reflects in his eyes like future battles yet to come. He sits cross-legged, recalling every word Master Lai spoke tonight. Balance, control, patience, he repeats, each word etching deeper into memory. He inhales deeply, imagining energy flowing with his breath like a stream. Night deepens, yet he feels awake, charged with new purpose. Outside, the wind howls softly, carrying distant scents of mountain pine. He stretches slowly, muscles aching but eager for tomorrow's trials. I am ready, he whispers, voice steady, despite exhaustion. Candle flickers, casting long shadows that resemble warriors on distant fields. He lies down finally, wooden sword beside him, hand resting on it. Dreams come quickly, filled with fire, steel, and unbroken determination. In his dream, Master Lai's voice calls, guiding him through endless practice. Dawn approaches unseen, but a new chapter of Tran Deep's life has begun. Dawn breaks over Than Ha. Tran Deep stands ready, wooden sword clutched tightly in trembling hands. Last night's sleepless hours echo with Master Lai's teachings, promising a new path forward today. Cool mist swirls as the village awakens, unaware of the training about to begin. Forge smoke rises in the distance, hinting at sparks and lessons hidden within. Tran Deep breathes deeply, whispering, today I start becoming someone I've always dreamed. Master Lai opens the door, eyes sharp yet warm, measuring the boy's resolve. Good, he says, arriving early shows respect for discipline and the art. They step into the open yard, where dew still sparkles on green grass. Birds sing overhead, but Tran Deep's heart thunders like distant drums. Master Lai marks a point on the ground, indicating where to stand firmly. Before swords, he instructs, we master stance, breathing, and balance first. Tran Deep lowers his body, legs trembling as he finds the required posture. Straighten back, Master Lai says, bend knees, root feet like old trees. Morning sun touches their shoulders, heat mixing with cool mountain breeze. Each correction feels heavy but necessary, forging patience alongside muscle. Breathe deep, Master Lai commands. Imagine energy flowing from your belly outward. Tran Deep inhales slowly, picturing a glowing stream moving through his core. Sweat appears despite cool air, soaking his simple training clothes. Master Lai circles, observing, occasionally tapping his shoulder to adjust stance. Good, he murmurs. Pain now will become strength later. Time stretches. Legs shake. Arms stiffen. Yet Trandeep refuses surrender. Birds leave. Sky brightens. But the boy still holds position. Master Lai finally nods. Enough. But don't collapse. Walk. Breathe. Regain control. Trandeep straightens slowly, blood rushing back into strained muscles. Standing builds foundation. Master Lai says, without roots, power collapses. Wooden sword now awaits, lying on a stone like a silent challenge. Master Lai picks it up, handing it solemnly to Trandeep. Treat this as life itself, he warns, not as mere wood. Trandeep grips the sword, feeling its surprising weight and promise. Sun climbs higher, casting sharp shadows of teacher and student. Master Lai demonstrates a simple slash, fluid yet powerful, despite calm demeanor. Follow slowly, he says, precision before speed, patience before glory. Trandeep mirrors the motion, blade wavering but eyes focused. Too tight, Master Lai notes, adjusting his grip with experienced fingers. Relax wrists, guide blade, don't fight it. Trandeep exhales, movement smoothing slightly, wood cutting air cleanly. Again, Master Lai commands, until motion lives in your bones. Repetition becomes rhythm. Rhythm becomes breath. Breath becomes intention. Wooden sword rises and falls, tracing invisible patterns under sunlight. Sweat drips, forming small dark spots on dusty ground. Master Lai corrects footwork, pressing his cane against Trandeep's ankles, every step rooted, every swing deliberate. Trandeep nods silently, muscles burning but spirit steady. Balance, Master Lai repeats, balance of body, mind, and soul. Hours pass, clouds drifting lazily across blue sky overhead. Trandeep's movements grow cleaner, shoulders aligning with hips naturally. Master Lai smiles faintly, glimpsing the boy's emerging potential. Tomorrow we'll begin breathing with movement, he says, but today, Master, stillness. Wooden sword glows faintly with sweat, like polished stone in sunlight. Noon approaches, heat intensifying, both teacher and student unfazed. Finally, Master Lai lowers his hand, signaling rest beneath a tree. They drink cool well water, savoring silence between hard-won lessons. Why do you train? Master Lai asks softly, eyes searching. To protect, Trandeep replies. To stop suffering before it begins. Master Lai nods, approving the sincerity burning in young eyes. Hold that heart, he says, or power will consume you. Wind stirs leaves, carrying scents of metal, earth and destiny. Training isn't revenge, Master Lai adds. Training is self-mastery first. Trandeep lowers gaze, remembering the bandits' faces and his helplessness. I understand, he says, I'll keep my heart steady. Afternoon shadows stretch long, marking time like invisible clocks. Trandeep resumes practice alone, repeating movements etched in muscle memory. Sword swings echo, steady as a heartbeat, striking invisible foes. Sweat darkens his shirt, arms trembling but refusing to stop. Every strike a promise, he whispers, every breath a step forward. Village sounds fade, only his own grunts remain. Sun dips toward horizon, painting forge and yard with gold light. Trandeep pauses briefly, eyes closed, feeling subtle energy circulate. His stance stabilizes, breathing deeper than ever before. So this is training, he thinks. Pain shaping something hidden inside. Crickets begin their evening chorus, harmonizing with his movements. Trees sway gently, shadows dancing like spirits observing his vow. Wooden sword feels warmer, almost alive beneath his calloused palms. He senses a faint pulse, echo of tomorrow's power waiting to awaken. I'll never quit, he says, I'll grow no matter how long. He practices footwork, sliding lightly over dirt like water flowing downhill. Master Lai watches quietly from the doorway, eyes gleaming with pride. Good, he murmurs, discipline already taking root. Trandeep spins slowly, testing balance under shifting weight. Strong roots, Master Lai says aloud, bear mighty branches. Sunset fires, the sky red, forging silhouettes of boy and blade. Trandeep's arms ache, but his movements smoother than morning's. Tomorrow, inner energy. Master Lai calls. Prepare your body tonight. Trandeep nods silently, finishing one last swing before lowering blade. He bows deeply toward Master Lai, respect carved in every motion. Forge fire dims, replaced by soft evening glow of lanterns. Trandeep walks home slowly, wooden sword across his back like a sacred relic. Village quiets, unaware a warrior's seed is sprouting among them. Stars bloom overhead, vast and endless, reflecting in his determined eyes. I'll master each lesson, he vows. Until I can stand alone. Passing his family's doorway, he moves quietly, not waking anyone. Inside his small room, candlelight flickers against the sword's wooden grain. He sits cross-legged, recalling every instruction, repeating motions in his mind. Balance, breathe, patience, he whispers, mantra echoing against thin walls. Muscles ache yet feel alive, humming with strange new vitality. Outside wind rustles bamboo, sounding like applause from unseen ancestors. Trandeep places the sword beside him, hand resting gently. No matter time, I'll follow this path, he murmurs, eyes closing. Dreams fill with Master Lai's voice, guiding him through endless repetitions. Dawn waits beyond horizon, ready to witness a student transforming into a true warrior. Night falls over Thanha village. Cool winds carry scents of mountain herbs and distant streams. Trandeep returns home exhausted, wooden sword still in his trembling hands, eyes burning with determination. A flickering candle casts moving shadows across his young but serious face inside the small room. He sits cross-legged, closing eyes, recalling Master Lai's teachings about breathing and internal energy control. Wooden sword rests beside him like a sleeping beast, waiting to awaken under careful training tonight. Trandeep inhales deeply, imagining bright currents flowing through his body from belly to arms. He begins silent meditation, replaying each movement in his mind as if practicing without motion. Outside, crickets sing while moonlight spills silver across rooftops and gently swaying bamboo groves nearby. In his dream, a misty valley appears, endless and filled with swirling silver clouds. A distant figure dressed in white robes holds a gleaming sword, shining like captured moonlight. The mysterious swordsman draws glowing lines in the air, symbols of power shimmering like stars. Trandeep feels those lines etching themselves into his mind, like burning runes of destiny. The dream fades but leaves a lingering warmth, like an ember glowing in his palm. At dawn, Trandeep awakens, sweat covering his brow, breath heavy but spirit strangely uplifted. He lifts his wooden sword, noticing movements feel smoother, lighter, more aligned with hidden energy. Master Lai senses change immediately, eyes narrowing as he greets the boy at Sunrise Courtyard. You've stepped beyond yesterday's self, Master Lai says. Tell me about your strange dream immediately. Trandeep recounts the figure, glowing sword, and mysterious patterns drawn across dream's mist. Master Lai nods slowly, recognizing signs of early inner energy awakening, rare but possible. We begin new training, he declares, breath guiding sword, sword guiding breath. To becoming one. Morning air freshens as mountain birds rise, signaling a new stage in Trandeep's journey. Master Lai positions Trandeep, instructing him to close eyes and sense internal energy flow. Imagine light from your center rising to your arms, into the sword. He commands firmly. Trandeep breathes slowly, heart steady, picturing shimmering streams of energy flowing with each exhale. Wooden sword feels warmer, heavier yet somehow alive beneath his tightening fingers and focused mind. Master Lai circles, correcting stance, tapping shoulders and hips to align the channels of power. Don't force, he says, let energy follow movement naturally like water, following riverbanks. Trandeep swings slowly, a faint breeze curling behind the blade's path as if stirred. Master Lai nods once, approving the subtle shift of air caused by controlled inner flow. Again, he commands. Repeat until breath and blade are one heartbeat echoing through your body. Trandeep repeats endlessly. Sweat soaking his shirt, but inner warmth grows stronger each pass. He senses faint humming, like a distant bell, resonating within his chest and arms. Master Lai introduces new challenge, holding a thin bamboo stalk before the boy's steady stance. Cut this without brute force, he says. Use focus and internal energy to slice clean. Trandeep steadies breathing, eyes narrowing, feeling energy pool in his belly before rising. Wooden sword arcs downward, guided by intention not muscle, striking bamboo with focused flow. Crack. The stalk splits neatly, echoing sharp across courtyard like a signal of breakthrough. Trandeep blinks, astonished, feeling inner current still vibrating in his arms after strike. Master Lai allows a rare smile. Good. That's the first step of true cultivation. But remember, he warns, control before power, humility before pride, patience before glory. Afternoon sun casts long shadows, warming earth and drying sweat dripping from Trandeep's face. They sit beneath an old tree, drinking cool water, teacher and student silent but connected. Master Lai speaks softly, telling legends of cultivators lost to arrogance and uncontrolled hunger. Keep your heart steady, he says, or power will twist your path into ruin. Trandeep nods, remembering faces of his parents, villagers, and the tragedy that fuels him. Wooden sword rests across his knees, silent witness to his vow of protection and growth. Birds settle back into branches, singing softer as breeze carries scents of pine and earth. Master Lai rises, signaling another round of practice before sunset ignites sky with crimson hues. Trandeep focuses on footwork, gliding across ground like water, steps rooted yet flowing. Energy and breath weave together, each movement sharpening his awareness like a blade of mind. Sweat drips but he feels alive, stronger than any day before this fateful morning training. Master Lai quietly observes, measuring students' aura and determination with experienced cultivator's eye. Tomorrow, he says, we begin refining your inner channels, shaping energy paths for long journey. Trandeep bows, gratitude deep, eyes reflecting golden sunset as determination hardens like tempered steel. He continues practicing alone, every strike a promise, every breath a foundation for tomorrow. Shadows lengthen, courtyard empty, except for boy and echoes of wooden blade through evening air. Moon rises earlier, painting ground silver, whispering encouragement from distant heavens as night returns. Trandeep feels energy glow faintly within palms, not fading but settling into quiet power. He closes eyes, sensing connection between heartbeat, breath, earth beneath feet, and sky above. Wooden sword no longer feels like training tool but companion sharing his awakening spirit. Crickets begin singing again, marking rhythm of his swings like natural metronome guiding practice. Stars emerge, each spark reflecting his ambition, each breath drawing him closer to destiny. Trandeep whispers, I will grow, no matter how long it takes. No matter pain. A soft wind stirs lantern near doorway, casting moving shapes across walls, like spirits dancing. Master Lai watches unseen, silently pleased, yet concerned about dangers awaiting beyond village borders. He's ready, he mutters. But world outside won't be kind or patient. Trandeep finishes last strike, lowering sword slowly, feeling pulse of inner current within. He bows toward distant mountains, silently acknowledging challenges and teachers unseen but guiding. In his mind, white-robed swordsman returns, smiling faintly, blending into stars and swirling mist. Trandeep breathes deeply, letting image fade, but its guidance remains etched into his soul. Wooden sword rests across his lap as he sits meditating under pale silver moonlight. Energy flows smoothly now, like a small stream finding path through mountain stones patiently. He recalls Master Lai's words. Discipline is root, inner strength the trunk. Compassion the fruit. Candle inside room flickers, flame bowing to breeze, sneaking through cracks of wooden walls. Trandeep enters deeper meditation, heartbeat slowing, awareness expanding beyond skin into surrounding space. He senses faint vibrations of earth, distant rustling of bamboo, whisper of unseen currents. A quiet joy arises within, not pride but peace blooming like lotus in pond. Night deepens, stars wheel overhead, vast and endless, mirroring path stretching before young cultivator. Trandeep's breathing aligns perfectly with cosmic rhythm, wooden sword glowing faintly under starlight. He whispers mantra of steadiness, balance, breath, patience, until words melt into silent intent. Energy coils gently, neither forced nor scattered, forming seed of future power within Dancian. Master Lai senses shift even from afar, murmuring ancient blessing for students' continued progress. A shooting star crosses sky, omen of journeys and unseen allies soon approaching. Trandeep's silhouette against moonlit courtyard resembles white-robed swordsman from his guiding dream. Wind rises softly, carrying fragrance of unknown blossoms from distant mountains beyond village boundary. Trandeep knows challenges await, but training tonight built foundation he will rely upon forever. He visualizes bamboo stalks splitting, feeling again the thrill of controlled energy and success. Wooden sword rests heavier now, as if acknowledging his growing mastery and deepening resolve. Crickets pause, silence settling briefly, amplifying sound of his calm steady breathing inwardly. He smiles faintly, realizing progress measured not in battles won but discipline sustained each day. Candle inside room dies out, leaving only moonlight painting silver on worn floorboards. Trandeep stands, stretching arms, sensing energy still swirling within like quiet storm restrained. He places wooden sword gently beside sleeping mat, bowing to it in respect. Thoughts drift to parents, villagers, and dream of protecting them with newfound strength someday. His eyes close slowly, body relaxing but spirit awake, weaving tomorrow's practice in his mind. Moonlight thickens, soft glow illuminating young cultivator like protective mantle from heavens above him. Outside, Master Lai gazes at stars, whispering, "This boy will change fate if guided true." Trandeep's breathing slows further, entering dreamless sleep filled with quiet power and resolve. Energy within stabilizes, seed of future strength rooting deeper into channels shaped today. Night holds its breath, awaiting sunrise when Trandeep will rise again, stronger than before. Mist covered the valley as Trandeep prepared for the journey up Sword Spirit Mountain. He wore simple robes, gripping his wooden sword tightly, feeling its familiar comforting weight. Master Lai gathered the disciples, eyes serious, announcing the challenge awaiting at the mountain peak. The path ahead shimmered with unseen energy, sharp like countless blades dancing in silence. Trandeep breathed deeply, calming his mind, sensing every vibration from the mysterious mountain. Disciples whispered nervously, but his calm expression reflected quiet determination and hidden inner strength. Clouds rolled across jagged cliffs, swirling like silver dragons guarding the sacred ancient path. Master Lai's voice echoed, warning them. Only the worthy shall comprehend the sword's intent. Trandeep remembered every word, gripping his wooden sword, ready to face destiny today. The climb grew steeper, winds stronger, testing both physical endurance and spiritual focus. Sharp invisible currents sliced through the air, making disciples shiver under unseen pressure. Trandeep steadied his breathing, absorbing each sensation, letting it sharpen his inner senses. Master Lai stopped near a massive boulder, carved with ancient sword runes glowing faintly. "This is the Sword Spirit Gate," Master Lai said, "a trial of your soul." Disciples exchanged worried glances, feeling the aura press down like invisible mountain walls. Trandeep stepped forward, eyes half closed, his heartbeat aligning with distant sword hums. Master Lai unsheathed a silver blade, placing it upon the boulder to awaken energy. Light radiated outward, mist vibrating, pressure rising until it pierced their very bones. Several disciples fell to their knees, gasping under the heavy invisible sword intent. Trandeep stood firm, feeling pain but also awakening strength hidden deep inside. In his mind appeared a figure dressed in white, holding a luminous sword. That gaze pierced through his soul, both cold and strangely familiar to him. The figure raised its sword slowly, cutting the air in one graceful motion. Trandeep's pulse surged, inner energy rushing through his meridians like untamed rivers. He focused, memorizing the movement as though carved into his deepest consciousness. Master Lai noticed his students' composure, murmuring softly about this boy's unusual nature. Around them, disciples trembled, some retreating down the mountain under unbearable pressure. Only Trandeep advanced, each step steady, his eyes calm, yet burning bright. The white figure's sword stroke glowed, illuminating hidden pathways of energy inside him. He raised his wooden sword unconsciously, mirroring the mysterious ancient movement exactly. Sparks of faint light flickered along the wooden blade, shocking nearby disciples instantly. A strange hum echoed, like a distant ancient sword ringing through forgotten ages. Master Lai's eyes widened, recognizing an archaic technique lost to known martial history. Trandeep felt lighter, as though the mountain's weight dissolved under his steady will. Mist parted slightly, revealing glimpses of the jagged sword spirit peak above. His breathing synchronized with the mountain's pulse, each inhale weaving with energy. The white figure faded slowly, leaving behind a lingering echo of its sword intent. Trandeep lowered his blade, sweat dripping but eyes filled with quiet resolve. Master Lai approached, hand on his shoulder, voice firm but concerned. "You touched the original sword intent," Master Lai said, "rare yet dangerous indeed." Trandeep bowed respectfully, admitting he saw a mysterious figure guiding his motion. Master Lai explained the double-edged nature of such insights, warning him to remain calm. Around them disciples whispered, jealousy and awe, mixing like sparks in dry grass. Some feared his growing power. Others admired his courage under the sword spirit pressure. As the trial ended, many were exhausted, some injured, forced to leave immediately. Trandeep still stood tall, feeling renewed energy circulating steadily within. Master Lai's expression softened, knowing this boy's destiny extended far beyond this mountain. He ordered a night camp on the mountainside under the watchful moon. Tents appeared like small shells along the ridge, glowing faintly under starlight. Tran Deep sat outside alone, wooden sword across his knees, eyes closed. He recalled the white figure's movement, repeating it slowly in his mind again. His inner energy stirred, warm and steady, resonating with the mountain's ancient aura. The wind carried distant echoes, like countless swords ringing from unseen cliffs. Tran Deep breathed deep, channeling the sound into his cultivation rhythm tonight. Nearby disciples gossiped softly, their voices filled with curiosity and hidden envy. But Tran Deep remained still, focused only on the path ahead of him. Master Lai watched from afar, his robes fluttering softly under the night wind. "The seed has sprouted," he whispered. "Now it must grow without breaking." Moonlight bathed Tran Deep's calm face, highlighting determination within his closed eyes. He vowed silently to explore the sword's mystery and discover its origin someday. Clouds drifted above, forming shapes resembling swords pointing toward unknown heavens. Tran Deep sensed each shift, his heart attuning to universal sword energy. Stars flickered, reflecting in his eyes like tiny blades of shimmering light. His meridians opened wider, inner flow smoothing, each breath feeding his core. Whispering voices from the mountain teased his senses, like distant, forgotten masters calling. He resisted temptation, grounding himself in the wooden sword's tangible, steady presence. Night deepened, cold air brushing his skin like invisible sword edges. Still, he did not shiver, instead embracing the sensation to strengthen his will. His awareness expanded, sensing every insect, every breeze, every shifting stone nearby. This heightened state merged with faint remnants of the white figure's sword aura. Memories surfaced. His humble village, early struggles, and promise to master true strength. Each recollection fueled his resolve, merging past and present into a singular focus. The wooden sword vibrated faintly, echoing his heartbeat, glowing with subtle inner light. He felt as if the sword itself approved his perseverance, a silent companion. Master Lai's distant silhouette remained steady, guardian of this delicate transformative night. Tran Deep whispered to himself, "This is only the beginning of my sword path." Sleep tried to lure him, but excitement kept his mind alert and clear. He practiced breathing techniques, aligning with the mountain's invisible sword currents. With each cycle his inner power condensed, sharper and denser than before. He imagined future challenges, vowing not to falter regardless of obstacles ahead. Wind howled suddenly, scattering leaves, testing his concentration under abrupt mountain gusts. He held firm, eyes closed, a pillar of composure amid swirling chaos. Lightning flickered far away, illuminating the jagged peaks and dark valleys below. Tran Deep envisioned himself slicing through storms, a blade unbent by heaven's rage. Moonlight shifted, outlining the path upward, toward the sword spirit peak tomorrow. His heart beat steady, like a drum announcing the dawn of new mastery. Whispering ceased, replaced by deep silence, as if mountain spirits watched in awe. He felt gratitude, bowing silently toward the unseen white figure guiding him. Stars wheeled overhead, marking the passage of his first night on this path. His mind finally softened, entering a meditative state bridging dream and wakefulness. In that half-dream, he saw again the white swordsman smiling faintly at him. This time the figure spoke. "The blade reflects the heart. Guard yours carefully." He reached out, but the vision dissolved into silver mist beyond reach. Awakening, he held the wooden sword tightly, feeling lingering warmth in his palm. The mountain wind carried faint echoes of ancient chants, promising more revelations ahead. Tran Deep stood slowly, stretching, sensing his joints filled with subtle power. Dawn approached, painting the sky with streaks of gold and crimson fire. He prepared to climb higher, confident yet humble before the mountain's mysteries. Master Lai called to the disciples, ordering readiness for the next ascent. Tran Deep glanced upward, eyes steady. His true journey on Sword Spirit Mountain had begun. Night deepened across Sword Spirit Mountain, mist drifting like silver smoke between ancient pine trees. Most disciples slept soundly after a grueling day, breathing slow beneath shimmering moonlight overhead. Tran Deep remained awake, sitting cross-legged on a large stone near the tents. His wooden sword lay across his knees, absorbing the night's cool mountain energy. He breathed steadily, aligning his pulse with the mountain's hidden sword aura tonight. Memories of the white swordsman replayed within his mind, echoing words about guarding the heart. A sudden chill brushed his skin, sharper than the normal mountain wind tonight. Mist swirled strangely ahead, spiraling inward as though forming a secret vortex unseen. Tran Deep sensed something lurking beyond the veil of drifting pale mountain fog. A faint hiss echoed, like a blade slicing through invisible silk curtains nearby. He stood, signaling nearby disciples to remain silent and still, alert to danger. A dark shape darted across the tree line, eyes glowing crimson under moonlight. Tran Deep gripped his wooden sword tighter, heart steady despite growing tension. The figure stopped at the forest edge, half hidden behind tall swaying pines. Master Lai's teachings rang in his ears. Calm heart guides the blade true. Suddenly, the shadow lunged forward, claws extended, tearing mist apart with force. Tran Deep twisted sideways, swinging wooden sword to intercept the rushing creature. The impact echoed, sending tremors through his arms, forcing him several steps back. He realized this opponent was neither human nor normal beast, but something darker. The commotion stirred Master Lai, who appeared instantly, robes fluttering under moonlight. Master Lai extended his palm, releasing invisible sword energy to halt the beast. Mist dissolved, revealing a half-beast, half-human creature, cloaked in writhing black smoke. Its eyes glowed red, claws dripping with a strange shimmering dark aura. Corrupted spirit beast, Master Lai muttered, frowning at this unexpected mountain intruder. The creature snarled, sending a black energy wave rushing toward Master Lai directly. He raised his blade, silver sword light slicing the attack cleanly apart. Tran Deep, back away. Master Lai commanded, voice firm but filled with concern. Yet Tran Deep felt an inner pull, wooden sword vibrating within his hands. The white swordsman's shadow stirred in his mind, urging him toward action. He tightened his grip, eyes narrowing, heart steady amid swirling dark energy. The beast lunged at him again, claws arcing like crescent blades of darkness. Tran Deep moved instinctively, tracing the mysterious sword path shown before. His wooden sword glowed faintly, a thin strand of light cutting the darkness. The creature howled, recoiling as the unexpected strike disrupted its smoky form. Master Lai's eyes widened at the sight of that ancient unseen sword technique. Impossible, he whispered, sensing echoes of a forgotten era's blade within the strike. The beast staggered, giving Master Lai an opening to unleash his finishing blow. Silver light flashed, splitting the creature into fading streams of black mist. Silence fell, only the mountain wind whispering through towering pine branches. Tran Deep lowered his wooden sword, breathing heavily yet remaining perfectly composed. Master Lai approached slowly, eyes sharp with equal parts awe and caution tonight. You used that sword form again, he said, voice low but intense. Tran Deep bowed slightly, confessing the motion appeared without conscious thought. Master Lai frowned, pondering the origin of such power, appearing spontaneously. Around them, disciples peeked from tents, eyes wide with fear and curiosity combined. Some whispered about his strange ability, others stared with jealous apprehension tonight. The moon hung above like a silver blade, cutting through clouds of mist. Master Lai laid a hand on his shoulder, a warning clear in tone. This sword path is ancient, powerful, and dangerous. Keep your heart balanced. Tran Deep nodded silently, feeling the weight of both destiny and expectation. Inside his chest energy churned, deep currents weaving through newly opened pathways tonight. He remembered the words. The blade reflects the heart. Guard yours carefully always. The image of the white swordsman flickered, as if acknowledging his progress. He exhaled slowly, grounding himself, refusing to lose control of rising energy. Master Lai watched, thoughtful, knowing fate rarely gifts without demanding a price. Around them the mountain returned to quiet, yet tension lingered like unseen blades. Disciples whispered more, sowing rumors of mysterious powers and hidden masters tonight. Tran Deep ignored them, focusing inward, steadying his breath and calming mind. He wondered why the creature targeted this campsite and what darkness lurked above. Moonlight reflected off his wooden sword, casting thin silver lines across his hand. He sat cross-legged again, entering meditation under the cold, vigilant moonlight. Energy spiraled within him, slower but denser, resonating with mountain sword aura. Master Lai's silhouette stood like a guardian sentinel against the forest edge. Night winds carried faint echoes, perhaps distant swords ringing from unseen heights. Tran Deep visualized the white swordsman, practicing the ancient path in his mind. His body responded automatically, micro-movements aligning with the forgotten sword rhythm. The wooden sword trembled lightly, hinting at hidden layers of dormant power. What is happening to me? He whispered, eyes closed, calm but questioning. Inside he felt both elation and unease at this accelerating transformation. He resolved to master the power before it mastered him instead. Clouds drifted slowly, covering the moon, plunging the campsite into deeper shadow. His senses expanded, detecting every insect wingbeat and rustling needle of pine. He recalled his humble village, the promise to grow stronger for his people. The wooden sword symbolized not just training but his unbroken bond to origins. Around him, disciples slept unaware of the power awakening nearby tonight. Master Lai shifted slightly, arms crossed, gaze fixed upon the dark horizon. The seed has sprouted, he murmured, but will it blossom or burn? Tran Deep's breathing grew smoother, drawing mountain energy like streams into his dantian. Each cycle condensed his inner power, sharper, clearer, like a forming blade. He sensed future trials looming, vast as the peak still hidden above. Night deepened further, air colder, testing his discipline under invisible sword edges. Yet he did not shiver, embracing discomfort as part of his forging path. Stars shone like countless sword points etched across the cosmic velvet sky. He raised his head, gazing upward, imagining slicing through heavens one day. His heartbeat slowed, steady drum guiding inner energy's disciplined flow tonight. He practiced silent mantras, Master Lai taught, anchoring spirit to wooden blade. Gradually, a soft hum emerged, blending with the mountain's own faint vibrations. He welcomed the resonance, but maintained strict focus, fearing loss of control. The night stillness held promise of both danger and revelation ahead. He opened his eyes, pupils gleaming faintly in reflected starlight above. He whispered vows to himself, strengthening resolve, calming heart with clear intent. The white swordsman's image returned, smiling faintly, silently acknowledging his unspoken promise. A spark ignited within his core, bright but restrained under iron discipline. He gripped his wooden sword, feeling warmth spread through his steady hands. Soon dawn would come, bringing new challenges upon Sword Spirit Mountain's path. He rose quietly, stretching, scanning dark ridges for lingering threats unseen. Master Lai nodded subtly, approving his vigilance and inner balance maintained. The horizon glowed faintly, heralding sunrise and continuation of their sacred climb. Tran Deep exhaled, determination settling like steel forged in unseen fire. He looked upward, knowing his true journey on Sword Spirit Mountain had just begun. Dawn light spilled across Sword Spirit Mountain, painting ancient stones gold under the rising sun. Tran Deep opened his eyes after meditation, feeling stronger and calmer than the previous night. Master Lai approached silently, his long robe fluttering like mist in the morning breeze. Today, we face the Sword Soul Abyss, Master Lai said, voice echoing like a blade. Disciples murmured nervously, aware of legends describing illusions and heart demons beyond understanding. Tran Deep steadied his breath, gripping the wooden sword that had guided him faithfully. I am ready, he said softly, gaze firm, despite the unknown trials ahead. Together they climbed higher, the mountain path narrowing with each difficult upward step. Wind howled louder, carrying whispers like countless swords clashing in invisible battles. Trees thinned, replaced by jagged rocks and faint glimmers of ancient sword runes. The Sword Soul Abyss opened ahead, a vast chasm shrouded in swirling mist. A stone bridge stretched across, carved with glowing characters of forgotten eras. Master Lai turned to the group, eyes sharp, warning of no return. Several disciples stepped back, their courage collapsing under the abyss's overwhelming aura. Tran Deep stepped forward, determination radiating like an unyielding blade of light. Mist curled around his legs, cold as steel, testing his composure and resolve. Each step on the bridge pulsed with power, ancient sword spirits watching silently. The sky above darkened, turning crimson, thunder echoing like giant hammers striking anvils. Tran Deep's vision blurred, the bridge dissolving into endless fields of burning memories. Before him appeared his village, aflame, screams echoing across a blood-red sky. His parents were bound, bandits laughing, flames dancing in familiar alleys. This is not real, he whispered, steadying his trembling wooden sword. Yet the cries tore at his heart, demanding he act, demanding he fight. He charged forward but smoke transformed into a shadow of himself holding a dark blade. I am your anger, the shadow hissed, eyes glowing with crimson light. Wooden sword clashed with black blade, sparks flying in surreal, slow motion. Each strike mirrored his inner turmoil, exposing flaws hidden beneath calm composure. Remembering Master Lai's words, Tran Deep slowed his breath, heart sensing with mountain rhythm. He guided each strike gently, redirecting force rather than colliding directly. Light began forming along his wooden blade, faint but steady as sunrise. The shadow roared, slashing wildly, losing rhythm as its fury consumed control. Tran Deep pivoted gracefully, stepping aside, guiding attacks into empty air. His mind cleared like water, reflections of rage dissolving into stillness. The sword mirrors the heart, he murmured, holding the blade like calm sky. With a final flowing cut, his wooden sword touched the shadow's dark edge. Darkness cracked, shattering into streams of silver light dissolving into mist. The illusion vanished, revealing the stone bridge beneath his steady feet. Sweat soaked his back, but his eyes shone brighter than ever. Master Lai watched from the other side, surprise and approval mixing silently. "You have passed the first trial," Master Lai said softly, "but beware the next." Around him, disciples screamed, trapped in illusions of their own heart demons. Some fell from the bridge, their bodies swallowed by endless white fog. Tran Deep glanced back, sadness flickering, but resolve remaining unbroken. This path spares no one, he thought, stepping toward the far end. Each pace felt heavier, yet his spirit sharpened like a tempered blade. Mist thickened, now glowing faintly with colors shifting like auroras. He sensed ancient sword spirits swirling, whispering words in forgotten languages. The bridge hummed beneath him, channeling energy into his steady footsteps. At the center stood a colossal statue of a swordsman cloaked in stone, its raised blade pointed skyward, radiating streams of silver light downwards. Tran Deep stopped, heart pounding, recognizing the figure from his recurring dreams. "The white swordsman," he whispered, voice trembling but eyes wide open. Master Lai approached, his gaze also locked on the towering stone guardian. "So you see it too," Master Lai murmured, tone heavy with destiny. Energy spiraled upward from the statue, enveloping the entire bridge like flowing water. Tran Deep's wooden sword vibrated, resonating with the statue's immense presence. The runes along the bridge ignited, casting cascading beams into the mist. A hidden platform emerged ahead, carved with intricate patterns of sword arrays. Master Lai gestured, urging Tran Deep forward despite rising pressure pressing on them. Tran Deep inhaled deeply, stepping toward the glowing platform with unwavering resolve. As he crossed, whispers filled his mind, voices of countless past sword cultivators. Images flashed, mountains splitting, stars falling, blades clashing across immortal realms. His heart wavered, but he anchored himself to breathing and inner discipline. Energy condensed within his core, forming a sharper, clearer current of power. The white swordsman's silhouette appeared, nodding silently before dissolving into light again. Master Lai's eyes narrowed, sensing a connection beyond ordinary coincidence. He is chosen, Master Lai thought, but the cost remains unseen. Around them the mist thinned, revealing the higher plateau of Sword Spirit Mountain. A new expanse of stone lay ahead, etched with celestial sword diagrams. Tran Deep felt the mountain welcoming, yet challenging him simultaneously. Disciples who survived stumbled onto the plateau, faces pale but eyes alight. Some bowed to Tran Deep unconsciously, sensing a power beyond their reach. He ignored their stares, focusing inward on controlling newly strengthened energy. Master Lai placed a hand on his shoulder, grounding him to reality. "The trials will only grow harder," he warned, "steel your heart always." Tran Deep nodded, gaze fixed upon the distant temple, shimmering atop cliffs. That temple was said to house the Sword Soul pool of ancient legends. The pool could either elevate one's path or shatter their spirit forever. Tran Deep felt a shiver, not of fear but anticipation of transformation. He vowed silently to reach that temple, no matter the obstacles ahead. The plateau vibrated subtly, hinting at hidden mechanisms beneath its carved stone surface. Sword-shaped pillars rose slowly, glowing faintly like stars at twilight. Ancient inscriptions floated above the pillars, recounting forgotten cultivation methods. Master Lai began chanting, activating protective arrays around the disciples. Tran Deep joined silently, sensing the flow of power between runes and air. Energy lines connected pillars to the statue, weaving a massive invisible net. The mountain wind shifted, carrying faint scents of herbs and lightning. Clouds parted, revealing the temple more clearly, its gates engraved with celestial beasts. He knew the next step would test not only skill but also soul. Yet his heart was calm, like a lake reflecting an unbroken sky. He sat cross-legged once more, meditating to stabilize his breakthrough. Wooden sword across his lap glowed faintly, harmonizing with mountain's endless song. Within, his energy moved like flowing steel, steady but growing sharper each cycle. He remembered his humble origins, vowing to protect those who could not fight. Master Lai watched silently, both mentor and guardian, eyes reflecting distant worries. Around them, disciples tended wounds, whispering about Trandeep's strange calm power. The plateau shimmered softly, promising new revelations, yet concealing hidden dangers still. Stars emerged above, aligning subtly with the carvings underfoot, forming a cosmic map. Trandeep opened his eyes, a new clarity burning within his steady gaze. He rose, gripping his wooden sword, ready to face the Sword Soul Pool's destiny. Trandeep wakes at dawn. Breath flowing, memories of Sword Soul Abyss still lingering within. Master Lai stands ahead, cloak swaying gently, eyes deep as a hidden mountain lake. He speaks slowly, warning of the next trial. The mysterious and dangerous Sword Soul Pool. Disciples nearby tremble softly, whispering legends about the lake reflecting their deepest hidden selves. Trandeep looks skyward, remembering vows of walking the sword path beyond fear and doubt. I am ready, he murmurs firmly, gaze steady, heart anchored in inner stillness. Master Lai turns silently, leading the group toward a narrow stone path hugging cliffsides. Wind roars upward, carrying echoes like 1,000 swords clashing in unseen battles. Trandeep's feet remain firm, steps balanced, breaths synchronized with the mountain's steady rhythm. Higher they climb, air thinning, vegetation fading, rocks glimmering faintly beneath rising sunlight. A distant sound of water trickles, like a forgotten melody in ancient dreams. Rounding a bend, they behold the Sword Soul Pool, shimmering like polished silver glass. Water lies perfectly still, reflecting sky, stones, and countless phantom blades of light. Ancient pillars encircle the lake, carved runes glowing faintly with restrained spiritual power. Master Lai stops, hands clasped, speaking of the pool's power to purify or destroy. Some disciples step back, eyes filled with fear, others clench fists, craving transformation. Trandeep steps forward boldly, feeling unseen currents tugging at his aura already. Light shimmers, showing thousands of Trandeep reflections merging into one determined image. Master Lai nods once, silently signaling the trials beginning under watchful mountain spirits. Trandeep kneels, fingers brushing icy water, sensation sharp, yet strangely cleansing. Wooden sword hums faintly at his side, absorbing threads of sword energy from water. He inhales deeply, stepping forward, water rising slowly against his body. Ripples expand outward, shimmering rings echoing his footsteps like invisible bells. Disciples watch in silence, some whispering prayers, others turning away trembling. At the lake center, a glowing circle rises, enveloping him in silver radiance. His consciousness sinks, world dissolving into a boundless silver void of suspended blades. Thousands of swords hang weightless, each blade pointing toward him with silent judgment. A colossal mirror appears, reflecting a cold, smirking version of Trandeep himself. A voice echoes everywhere, questioning his calmness, doubting his strength and true motives. Trandeep's answer is steady. I follow my path, nothing more, nothing less. Swords vibrate like ringing chimes, mirror cracking under invisible pressure of his will. 3 illusions emerge. Parents chained, Master Lai wounded, white-clad swordsman turning away. Who will you save? The disembodied voice demands with relentless forceful clarity. Heart racing, Trandeep closes his eyes, breath anchoring in disciplined center. He recalls Master Lai's teaching. The sword heart must see all equally without attachment. He does not rush forward, instead kneels, wooden sword placed firmly before him. Energy from his core spreads outward, wrapping illusions in tranquil silver light. Images dissolve like mist, replaced by a single floating silver sword, glowing softly. Warmth flows down, like a hand on his shoulder guiding him forward. He grasps the silver sword, energy surging through meridians, like living rivers. Understanding blossoms. The sword is not mere weapon but mirror of his inner self. Space fractures, silver void collapsing, drawing him back toward physical world again. Trandeep opens eyes, still standing at the pool center, water spiraling gently, silver light ascends skyward, disciples gasping at the spectacle surrounding his calm figure. Master Lai's expression deepens, eyes reflecting both admiration and unspoken worry. Trandeep steps out, feet steady, aura calmer yet sharper like honed steel. His wooden sword now carries a faint silver sheen, echo of new understanding. Master Lai approaches, laying a hand upon his shoulder with measured weight. You have passed, he says quietly, but heavier burdens await on this path. Trandeep bows, gratitude in heart, yet resolve burning stronger than ever before. Disciples whisper rumors of his extraordinary breakthrough within the dreaded Sword Soul Pool. Evening falls. Campfires flicker, many still trapped in illusions, screaming for release. Tran Deep sits alone upon a boulder, moonlight painting silver patterns across water. He reflects on his village, childhood training, and first wooden sword's humble beginnings. Past hardships weave into present strength, forging an unshakable core of quiet determination. Breeze carries sense of pine and hidden sword aura lingering above the lake. He visualizes the new sword heart diagram forming within his Dancian, pulsing gently. Master Lai watches silently from distance, concern shadowing his otherwise composed features. He grows too quickly, Master Lai thinks. Talent may invite calamity or destiny. Stars ignite overhead, reflected in the still water like a field of swords. Tran Deep closes eyes, attuning senses to each ripple of distant mountain winds. He feels the presence of white-clad swordsmen echoing faintly beyond mortal perception. A whisper brushes his thoughts. The path you walk is only beginning now. Dreams envelop him at midnight, carrying him to an ocean of endless blades. White-clad swordsman turns, face finally visible, eyes vast as celestial seas. He gestures silently, inviting Tran Deep to step deeper into unknown territories. When Tran Deep moves, the sea of swords trembles like thunder awaiting storm. He awakens, drenched in sweat, dawn light creeping over jagged mountain peaks. Wooden sword warm in his grip, silver glow faint yet persistent at edge. He rises, determination renewed, facing the next ascent toward hidden mountain halls. Camp still asleep, only echoes of failed illusions drifting across the lake. Tran Deep inhales morning air, drawing it into newly strengthened meridians with ease. He senses a subtle shift inside, a layer of doubt finally dissolving completely. Master Lai appears silently, nodding approval, but withholding deeper truths for future trials. The sword path beyond heaven, Tran Deep whispers. This is only the threshold. He recalls 3 illusions, understanding they mirrored his attachments and unresolved fears. Now he feels lighter, clearer, blade within spirit singing a quieter, purer note. Mist curls upward, swirling like silver dragons, hinting at ancient forces around them. Disciples slowly rise, some broken, some enlightened, all staring at Tran Deep anew. He bows politely, offering silent respect to their struggles, sharing unspoken camaraderie. Mountain wind gusts, scattering leaves like sparks of forgotten memories down the path. He straps wooden sword across his back, feeling weight as both burden and anchor. Steps echo softly on stone, each footfall resonating with strengthened inner rhythm. No retreat, he tells himself. No illusion can sway my sword heart again. White clouds gather above. Sunlight filtering into radiant columns like celestial swords descending. Master Lai's voice carries forward. Prepare, for the next hall tests patience beyond endurance. Tran Deep nods silently, mind already turning toward greater challenges ahead. He feels his inner energy circulating faster, blending with silver strand from sword. A sense of unity between body, blade, and will crystallizes like clear jade. Birds scatter upward, startled by unseen pressure emanating from his stabilized aura. Each breath deepens his awareness of surroundings, perceiving life threads in wind and stone. His wooden sword hums softly, echoing distant call of yet unseen destinies. He glances back once at the Sword Soul Pool, now tranquil after storm. A faint smile touches his lips, gratitude and humility tempering newfound power. He walks beside Master Lai again, silent bond forming between teacher and student. Steps lead upward towards Sword Spirit Hall hidden within clouds and ancient wards. Tran Deep steadies thoughts, recalling lessons of detachment and clarity from night before. Future trials loom like mountains, yet his heart no longer trembles under weight. The path narrows, wind sharper, but silver flame inside him glows unwavering. Beyond illusions, beyond fear, the sword path reveals my truest self, Tran Deep whispers. The dawn light brushed the Sword Spirit Mountain as Tran Deep opened eyes with renewed determination. Master Lai stood calmly before the rising mist, his voice echoing like ancient temple bells at dawn. After the Soul Sword Lake, comes the Mind Trial Hall. Prepare your spirit, Master Lai warned softly. Around them, remaining disciples tightened grips on swords, nervous yet burning with quiet anticipation. Tran Deep breathed deeply, feeling sword ki circulate through veins, sharpening his focus like crystal edges. The path narrowed into a jagged cliff trail, lined by statues of forgotten swordmasters, watching silently. Each statue's eyes seemed alive, following their movements, testing their courage with invisible pressure. Winds howled like steel scraping steel, slicing loose strands of hair from nervous disciples behind. Tran Deep's steps were steady, each footfall echoing the rhythm of his inner heartbeat. Master Lai's cloak fluttered, whispering legends of countless warriors who had failed this ascent. At last they reached a vast terrace where an ancient hall rose into storm clouds. Columns of black stone bore glowing runes, pulsing softly, like a living heartbeat from earth. "This hall tests not your sword," Master Lai intoned, "but the heart within you." Tran Deep raised his head, sensing familiarity in the hall's cold breath upon his skin. Memories of the white-robed swordsman flickered behind his eyes, urging him to step forward. The gate creaked open slowly, revealing darkness deeper than midnight ocean trenches. A gust of ancient incense spilled outward, heavy with promises and forgotten vows. Master Lai's nod signaled Tran Deep. He entered first, shoulders squared like a drawn blade. Inside, faint pearl lights shimmered on walls carved with epic battles of ages past. At the hall's center lay a stone circle inscribed with overlapping swords and shifting trigrams. The door slammed shut, sealing Tran Deep inside alone with echoing silence. The floor dissolved beneath his feet. Desert sands rose swirling, sky burning gold above. Heat pressed down, grains of sand cutting skin like 1,000 hidden blades. From the horizon, shapes emerged, warriors sculpted from sand, eyes empty yet hungry. They rushed forward with impossible speed, swords extended like streaking comets of dust. Tran Deep drew his wooden blade, sensing trial of spirit rather than flesh. First clash thundered. Wooden sword met sandy edge, scattering grains but leaving no wound. More warriors formed behind, endless as the sea, pressing closer with relentless strikes. Breathing deep, Tran Deep remembered Soulsword Lake's lesson. Anchor the heart, not fight chaos. He planted his feet, aligning breath to earth, letting sword follow inner current. His blade moved without thought, a flowing stream weaving between dusty attacks. Each deflection sent ripples of cool energy, pushing back the suffocating heat. Yet the army multiplied, mirroring doubts and fears hidden within his heart. He closed eyes, feeling pulse slow, trusting the sword spirit within him. Gradually, sand warriors faltered, dissolving into mist as his resolve solidified. Desert faded, replaced by a forest of swords, rising like metallic trees. Each blade hummed softly, whispering lost names, echoing glories of forgotten wielders. A stone altar appeared ahead, upon it a silver-edged tome pulsing with faint light. Tran Deep approached slowly, sensing the tome's energy probing his memories and intentions. His fingers brushed the cover, triggering a torrent of visions exploding behind his eyes. He saw ancient swordsmen training until knuckles bled, then rising again with unbroken spirit. Lovers partying beneath war banners, masters falling to protect disciples, betrayals and forgiveness intertwined. Every image pierced him like blades, testing compassion and resilience of his inner world. He endured, neither clinging nor rejecting, breathing steady as visions carved new depths within. A voice emerged from nowhere, soft yet vast. Sword path is heart path. If your heart expands, your blade lengthens. If your heart brightens, your blade sharpens. Light streamed from the tome, shattering into countless silver fragments swirling around him. Fragments merged into his chest, engraving unseen runes upon his spiritual core. Tran Deep opened eyes inside the hall again, breath misting in cool air. Master Lai and other disciples stood beyond threshold, watching his awakening silently. The stone circle beneath glowed briefly, patterns of swords spiraling outward before fading. The door unlatched itself, sunlight flooding in, bathing Tran Deep in gold. He stepped out, eyes darker yet clearer, bearing weight of new understanding. Master Lai met his gaze, recognizing a transformation beyond mere martial skill. "You have passed the mind trial hall," Master Lai declared, voice carrying respect. "Now you hold both sword heart and sword will. Walk carefully. Destiny sharpens nearby." Tran Deep bowed, gratitude steady but without arrogance, spirit anchored like mountain roots. The wooden sword quivered faintly, hinting at hidden metamorphosis within its grain. Around them, other disciples whispered, awe and fear mingling in their darting eyes. Some stepped back unconsciously, sensing an invisible pressure radiating from Tran Deep's presence. That night, moonlight washed Sword Spirit Mountain in silver, outlining jagged cliffs with magic. Tran Deep sat on a lonely rock, gazing at distant Sword Spirit Hall among clouds. His mind replayed the visions, blending pain and wisdom into one seamless current. The wooden sword rested across his knees, faint runes shimmering beneath moon's touch. He inhaled mountain air, exhaled doubt, letting calm fill every breath until stars aligned. In dream, the white-robed swordsman appeared again, this time upon a colossal staircase. Behind him loomed a towering hall, doors carved with galaxies and endless swords. "Find me atop the highest chamber of Sword Spirit Hall," the figure whispered, his voice blended with winds of eternity, summoning Trandeep's future steps forward. Trandeep reached toward the figure, but woke as dawn split the horizon. Morning bells tolled from hidden temples, echoing through valleys like dragon calls. Master Lai's summons rolled across training grounds, gathering chosen disciples at Stone Plaza. Trandeep rose calmly, spirit steady after trial, sword in hand like old friend. Clouds parted, revealing sunlight streaming down Sword Spirit Hall's highest spires above. Birds scattered, sensing shifting energies stirring deep within Mountain's heart. Trandeep joined the line, feeling glances but ignoring them, eyes fixed ahead. Master Lai's expression mixed pride and concern, knowing storms yet unseen awaited. Another elder approached, handing scrolls to each disciple, instructions for coming challenges. Scroll in hand, Trandeep read silent oaths, ink shimmering with arcane glow. "Next trial is beyond mere endurance," the elder warned. "It measures destiny itself." Wind rose, scattering fallen leaves like miniature blades dancing around their ankles. Trandeep gripped wooden sword, silently promising to unlock its hidden truth soon. He remembered silver fragments from tome, still pulsing softly within his chest. A sudden flash of intuition told him he was no longer entirely human. The mountain's key responded differently, bending subtly toward his footsteps and breath. His heartbeat matched unseen drums echoing from deep caverns beneath Sword Spirit Hall. Sun climbed higher, painting banners crimson, gold and white, rippling like living flames. The air thickened with tension. Disciples whispered prayers to unseen sword ancestors. Trandeep felt no fear, only a still pool reflecting his own determination. Master Lai raised a hand, silencing murmurs, eyes scanning horizon with unspoken warning. "Today, you step onto a path none may tread for you," he proclaimed. "Hold your hearts steady. Storms will come, but the sword must not waver." Trandeep's fingers tightened, wooden blade warm as living flesh beneath his grip. The mountain's shadow stretched long, merging earth and sky into single vast stage. Somewhere above, the white-robed swordsman surely waited, testing patience across dream and reality. Trandeep inhaled, feeling invisible threads connecting him to that distant presence. He exhaled, slicing doubt away, forging spirit like tempered steel under hidden flames. In that moment, he knew Sword Spirit Hall would reveal more than techniques. It would expose his deepest self, carve illusions away, and crown true intent. Under rising sun, Trandeep stepped forward, heart quiet, blade ready, destiny calling him upward.